Коллеги, буквально тогда 3-4 минуты.
Colleagues, only for 3 minutes. We're waiting for one speaker. So can you please put your phones down because it is all filming.
Все, доходит у нас гость.
So our guest is coming.
Приятнее, чем на улице.
Well, it's better here, and AC is here compared to the climate that is outside.
После столь длительного ожидания, мне кажется, аплодисментами даже повторите, что ли, да?
After waiting him for so long, I feel like we can applaud.
Ну все, президиум в полном составе.
Okay, so all the members of the sessions are here present.
Так, коллеги, будем начинать.
Okay, colleagues,
Сначала, конечно же,
good morning to everyone.
прибыли на всероссийский
I want to thank you that you came to this conference, and our session is called National Touristic Itinerary, and I guess that we pay a lot of attention to tourism, and the government of our country, 2 and 3 years ago, our government created a project, and our president signed lots of projects. And tourism wasn't in it, and that's not true. And it appeared finally, and also there are national touristic itineraries now. Till 2030, there will be 150 different projects, and our region also decided to take part in that. And the national touristic itineraries is a thing now, and the Republic of Bashkortostan also decided to participate. But today we're going to discuss this question. Maybe some advantages, maybe some disadvantages of that sphere. Now I want to introduce Vyacheslav Turchinsky. He is the Deputy Director of the Tourism Development Department of the Ministry of Economic Development of the Russian Federation. Are you here? So, the Ministry of Economic Relations. So, the Ministry of Economic Development is the key development in our country, and we pay a lot of attention to tourism in the last few years. And there is a development of tourism in our country as well. Talking about national touristic itineraries. So, what does your ministry think about that? When we talk about tourism. Okay, dear colleagues, I say hello to everyone. I like the Republic of Bashkortostan a lot, and I've been working near the Republic of Bashkortostan for lots of years. I know this region, and I have lots of friends there. So I say hello to everyone, and I say good luck and good work here. Talking about national touristic itineraries. So we have a term. This is an order. There is an order of the government of the Russian Federation about making up national touristic itineraries. It's not just a phrase. It's not just a beautiful. It's a legal thing. It's a legal activity. It's a legal order that we have. We also have. So we also make up national touristic itineraries that become national. On the 26th, there will be a meeting of experts.
At the meeting, we are going to consider new applications. Currently, this status is borne by 37 itineraries. It's not as many as we wanted to. And of course, I would like to scale this potential, and I would like to encourage my colleagues to join the movement. And I guess 37 itineraries is just a minimum, and I guess that our neighbors in the Volga region can join. Of course, it is possible to use well-equipped, well-informed, properly arranged itineraries. What is a touristic itinerary? It is an itinerary that has passed through a certain certification. They are well furnished. They are popular among the tourism operators, touristic companies, travel agencies. Itineraries should be initiated by a coordinating region. Often they come through different regions, and that's why it is important for these regions to jointly manage them. It is important to it's important to send an application to the committee, and the committee will decide on the status of the itinerary. Then a committee's group personally visits the itinerary, inspects that, studies that. They check everything with their own eyes, and the experts confirm if the application data actually conform to the real life. Then the expert council gathers, and the representatives of the itinerary have to defend their project. After that, the committee either decides the project to be further developed, or accepts or declines the itinerary. Normally, the application takes around 2 months to be approved. But it is important to do some preliminary work beforehand. Why is it important? This project allows us to focus on touristic directions. We create information impact. We combine and coordinate powers of different regions and help them aim these efforts at a certain itinerary routes and projects. It is an opportunity to ask for help, for support, to have some funds from the federal budget. Besides the status, besides the support, the regions that have such a potential and have such a status, they get special support, and it is vital. It is important in general and in particular, because the President of the Russian Federation, Mr. Putin, at the meeting of the State Council last year, talked about the tourism, and he ordered to develop and improve the system of national touristic routes. Now the active applicant is Kazan. In July or in June, they are going to they're going to be visited by our committee members, and they actually take this development very seriously. Therefore, I am encouraging all the specialists to join the movement, because I can assure you the Ministry of Tourism provides all the necessary support. We are ready to help. We will be welcoming whatever applicant is there, and our objective is not to get rid of applications, but to help improve them, and we want your region to get this status. Formally, the situation is this. I am convinced that we will extend the number of certified itineraries, and I guess that they will become the anchors for our tourism. If you have any question, please feel free. You said 37 itineraries have been registered so far. We understand that there are legal requirements and other requirements. How many applications did you reject? We want to understand how many lawful applications you have received. You see, our task is not to keep the statistics, keep the records. Well, what is the rejection rate? For us, the key is to have all the applications and make them improved to the level where it will be accepted. Because we are not quick to judge and reject applications. Our task is to indicate what has to be done for the application to pass through. Let me repeat this again. Every application should be perfected until accepted. We are not making a contest here. Our task is to improve, to make better, to help. We want regions to have this status and these routes. I want you to pay attention to the fact that it's not important to get a status, shake hands, and get financial support. It's important to keep conforming to these requirements and never stop at what you have achieved. We aim at observing the Russian touristic routes. We want to see the dynamics. We want to see the quality maintained. Because that's why the project is called National Touristic Itinerary. Like, if you have a hotel and your hotel is a 5-star one, it doesn't mean that once you reached it, you don't have to keep it. One more question. From your overlook, what are the most popular, widespread mistakes in the applications filed by the regions? Well, where should we look first if we're looking for mistakes? Well, there are some typical mistakes, what we pay attention to. First of all, we want to make our requirements ultimately clear. For example, when you file for an application, your route should be already working. Like, people should walk down it, people should travel down this route. And there should be a destination, there should be an actual, real, existing, visited by people destination. It's a basic idea. Your itinerary, your route should be on the market, physically. Second thing is well-furnishedness. Because sometimes applicants neglect this requirement. Also, your site should have existed for a certain period of time. There is a term to that too. Okay, thank you very much. We had Vyacheslav Turchinsky, Deputy Director of the Tourism Development Department of the Ministry of Economic Development of the Russian Federation. Thank you for your contribution. I'm glad to know that the government pays attention to it, and I am convinced that Bashkortostan will gain this status after all. Thank you very much. We are welcoming your application. Thank you. It will rain cats and dogs for you. I would like to give the floor to Rustem Avzalov, Minister of Entrepreneurship and Tourism of the Republic of Bashkortostan. Mr. Avzalov, it is clear that tourism is an important thing in Russia and in Bashkortostan. We haven't got this status yet, but we have Yangantau UNESCO Geopark, and we have many other achievements. We put efforts, and they did not go in vain. So you also established a museum in Shulgantash. So what is your key idea about the national touristic itinerary, touristic route? When we're speaking about this national itinerary, we have definitely something to be proud of.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Good evening. So I say hello to everyone who is here on our session or online with us, our colleagues, for example, the Ministry of Economic Development. Actually, we can't talk sadly about tourism. It should be, when you talk about tourism, you should talk energetically. We shouldn't say that tourism is stagnated. Tourism is something, is a driver of many, many spheres. This is absolutely, it is absolutely multiplicative, and it shares dynamics with different spheres. So let's make it simple. What do we have here in the Republic of Bashkortostan? So today we have glampings, we have also social tourism, and we are the first in the country. We've been doing that for 11 years. We have local projects as well. For example, the Republic, the Bashkortostan over the Republic, Belarus, etc., etc. So I cannot hear you. Can you give me a microphone, please? Also, the topic. Also, the topic connected to the industry. The industry tourism. So it kind of knocked on the door, and now we work with this sphere as well. Also, artistic crafts. It is so everyone who visited this session, they should leave it with a part of Bashkortostan. For example, a souvenir that you can bring with you, and when you look at it, you will remember everything about this exact session. Also, the medicine. Today it is it is becoming more and more popular. Everything connected to the medicine, it is developing, and there are lots of investment funds, and the Republic of Bashkortostan is now open. To medical tourism, and we will talk about it on this platform as well. How can we use it? How can we use it with our business partners? And tourism is everywhere, actually. Even talking about entrepreneurship. For example, operators, people who work in tourism, those are the people that deal with tourism as well. So I would like to start in a different way, and I can see it more of a, I would like to talk to you about national, so a touristic itinerary. Let's think about it commonly. Colleagues. So the topic called National Touristic Itinerary has a foundation when we form touristic itinerary that will be safe, that will be marked, that will be working, and they have their tourists already. So this is Bashkortostan, this is our territory. But it's just to get the status. But it's the philosophy of itinerary. And what do we have on the itinerary? So those are people, hotels, motels, different health centers, campings, and other different activities that are connected to tourism. When people do not want to, throw a packet of things to a river, so if we want them to be really polite with tourism, we should bring them such structure. Of course, it is ethics. That's what a tourist will see. Those are the industry industry things, and the landscapes that he or she will remember. So actually, they will use Yandex Maps and other different mobile apps to memorize this itinerary in their head, to kind of mark it. So I would love to talk about this exactly, about this exact topic, and what kind of support can we bring. And today here with us is a corporation of tourism that deal with small and but there are grants that are implemented with the help of the Ministry of Economic Development. And I'm really happy that in April last year there was so two governmental bodies combined, and it was a trend that happened in the end of the year. So Rostourism was combined with another governmental body that was working with tourism, and it's really good that it is really good that it is unified and everything is clear there about tourism, different topics. Today in the Republic of Bashkortostan we talk about, so we have a good tourism here in the Republic of Bashkortostan. So approximately 2 million tourists came here to the Republic. So you should understand that 2 million is quite big for us, because there are 4 million of us here in the Republic, the citizens. And it's also connected to the infrastructure that we should develop. We also have many projects. So we have 300 projects for 300 million, and we should kind of process them. We should look through them, and we should maybe implement them. If you have a project up to 10 million rubles, you get the.
Today, under this All-Russian Investment Sub-Envoy, during the plenary session, we will discuss how the legislation of the Republic of Bashkortostan is liberated. You will hear about the trends that will be maintained in the Republic of Bashkortostan in the future years. But this will come later. I would like to note that Bashkortostan is absolutely available for any project propositions. Speaking about the Trans-Urals, where we are now, we have here very ambitious projects. We discussed the visit of Mr. Reshetnikov and his colleagues. We want to create Ural Special Recreation and Tourism Economic Zone. It is supposed to be located near Beloretsk, in Beloretsky and Burzansky districts. Now these districts are forming a cluster, and there is a reason for that. The reason is that there is an ambitious task that has to be accomplished. This will end up in a stable tourism flow. There are itineraries there. The Republic and the travel agencies of the Republic created 1,750 routes. 20% of them appeared within a very short time frame. Why? Because the Republic of Bashkortostan started to reveal its potential. We have new events, we have new places, we have Shurgantash, we have a nomad tribe civilization museum. And there are not just locations like a visiting center near Turahan tomb. It will be even bigger than Shurgantash. It will have a very good structure. We will show something about Bashkortostan's history, about beekeeping history, about hunting history, like hawk or golden eagle hunt. We will display bows. We will display different types of hunt, and we are discussing now this topic with Krasnoussolsky Health Resort. And we have also our big partner, Sberbank. They are going to get engaged into this implementation. All these things, first of all, are made to create routes. Why did they emerge so fast? To wrap it up, I would like to say that such a huge touristic cluster as the special recreation zone is that we value our ambitious purposes. We want to create this Ural recreation and tourism special economic zone because it will include areas that are popular right now. You know that Beloretsky district and Burziansky district are resorts. They are popular among visitors. We know that very well. We have skiing centers there, and these skiing centers already exist. They are famous and popular. We have Metallurg skiing center where we have a Doppelmayr lift. It's the first such a lift in the country. We have Abzakova village skiing center. You have one ski pass for the entire complex. For example, you check in your hotel, you buy accommodation, and they offer you a ski pass straight away. And it doesn't matter where you stay. Eventually, you can move from one piece of infrastructure to another using the same ski pass. We have Mratkino skiing center. It is a resort, and we talked with the well-respected corporation, this project Mratkino, and our federal or republic's ultimate goal is to combine all of this skiing center under the single ski pass, and this way we become one of the longest skiing pistes in the country. And this is the brand, this is the point of attraction, this is marketing, this is the route, because it keeps us single, keeps us united and integral. Territories that we are talking about, the Banner Lake, they are popular as early as today. Today we signed an agreement with our partners, and we want to implement large investment projects there. We have Kurort company, which are our partners too, and they feel comfortable on the market because they have 400,000 tourists per season. So, dear friends, tourism should be perceived as the path, as the tourist's way. And on the way, you have everything. And your task is to use this everything. Thank you very much. We told about multiplication effect, and maybe we haven't considered this in the point of view of tourism. And when, for example, the government for the first time faced this challenge, they felt like a mess because whatever happens, it always influenced the cost of the construction materials, and it impacted and affected the construction processes. But now the touristic industry within a year, 2 or 3, will jet up, and we will experience this multiplication effect. Like in Turkey, once Russian tourists stopped coming, Turkey started suffering by missing and lacking Russian tourists. So I'd like to give the floor to Victoria Pavlyushina, head of the tourism direction in the Center for Research of Budgetary Relations. Ms. Pavlushina has a team that monitors national routes in Bashkortostan. They are preparing a presentation dedicated to this topic. So, Ms. Pavlushina, you have the floor. What are we doing? What our standpoint are? Thank you, dear colleagues, for having me here. It's not our first time in Bashkortostan. We were here in September, and when we left, we took a lot of souvenirs and honey with us. Yeah, please don't mention the money. We didn't take any money, indeed. We are impressed by the hospitality that we experienced during our entire touristic route. Unfortunately, we failed to see everything, but the morning at the Pavlovo water body is the forever memory. From the point of view of hospitality and substantial touristic offer, the potential of the Republic of Bashkortostan is very impressive, and it's unspeakable and undoubtful. I have a presentation, I have slides. I can do without it, but I would appreciate if I can refer to it from time to time. We've been in the Republic for a week. I left for a couple of days, but my colleagues walked down the itineraries and they sent me pictures. They sent me what they want to offer the tourists, but I would like to mention that when we are speaking about the national touristic routes, I would repeat your words. Touristic itineraries are very widespread in the Republic of Bashkortostan. When we are speaking about the route, I'm not talking that we have to develop tourism only in this direction. It takes more complex approach, but the national touristic itinerary should include the key subjects that would compile a competitive touristic offer. It is a battlefield at which different large and small touristic projects have to develop to build a foundation for the tourism industry of the Republic, and they shouldn't suppress one another. When my colleagues and I are speaking about a touristic route, we rely on the fact that we have the thread, we have this 5 to 7 days plan, we understand the history of the requirements imposed on the tourist routes by the Ministry of Economic Development. But us and the ministry have come to realize that down the itinerary you can have points that are advised, that are recommended, even though they can be beyond the standard route. Yet they should conform to the quality. And when we are talking about the national route, we should speak about the quality, because when we maintain quality, then the outcome will be much better. We will attract additional investments and attraction points. There will be associated infrastructure, some servicing infrastructure, and absolutely, when we are talking about tourism, we are trying to inspire, to bring joy, to ignite our tourists with their potential experiences. We should keep in mind both the excitement of the route and some conveniences, for example. And I'm very glad that we have partners. We are not alone on this, and we realize that our tourists have to make pit stops during the route, and the ministry is open for conversation with us. Speaking about down-to-earth things, about the criteria of the touristic route, we rely on two big attraction points, unique offers that the public has to offer. The first one is Yangantau Geopark. We cannot leave it alone because it's the heritage, the global heritage of UNESCO, and it is an important attraction point. We will share the presentation with you. So it is an important point of attraction that is advised by the route, and of course we direct our touristic flows there. We have three touristic clusters. The first cluster is to the north from Ufa. We are totally impressed by Birsk with the merchant houses. It's not the first thing which comes to your mind about tourism in Bashkortostan, but we were totally impressed. My colleagues and I already pondered over how this town history can be enhanced, and we realized that there is a potential among tourists who are interested in exploring little towns. Also, we have Blagoveschensk in our schedule, but it is something that we keep in our mind, like maybe we will brand this town. Pavlovo Water Reservoir is also an interesting point of attraction. That's very cool that you can go down by Ufa or go up by Kraidel. Also, Krasny Ключ Spring Resort is just a few days at the health resort, or a travel, a trip, a journey. Also, to the south from Ufa, you can see Shihans or limestone mounds. This is the place with one of the most substantial potential in terms of touristic flows. And the third cluster, if you wish, it's the road from Ufa to Magnitogorsk. And whatever is on the way is a skiing center, skiing cluster. We are not building an itinerary here because it's a little bit different type of tourism, but of course we make our tourists aware that there is such an opportunity. While studying the route, we consider an alternative. Tourists can travel by car. On the other hand, thanks to the railway, they can launch a retro train. It will be launched in September this year, and this train will go down this part of the route because the mountain part of the railway is magnificent. You can see gorgeous landscapes, and there are pit stops that can take a little time, and actually the entire trip can take shorter than it used to be. If you travel to Beloretsk, you can fit in the timely requirements of our standards. Also, Banny Lake is a place with a magnificent landscape. The challenge that we face is including Kapova Cave into the route because we face some difficulties due to the potential of touristic flows due to nature protection issues. My colleagues and I are working on it. We are working with the Ministry of Transport to make this site place of interest accessible. I would love to encourage you to start the conversation. My colleagues and I will keep traveling down the routes of Bashkortostan, and we will learn more about our potential, about our task, and we will develop new requirements. And if you have any question, if you have any criticism to express, please feel free to use my contact information, because we don't know to miss anything, we don't know to miss any feedback, because we may have missed it due to our analytical passion. And I am very happy that Bashkortostan informed us that they have Birsk, such a wonderful town. So this is our concept, this is our approach. We are working on it constantly, and we are able to define some things for improvement, and we can find out things like how to build a hotel, how to how to develop an infrastructure, what we value most, and what task we have. We want to have the route to work 24/7 and during 4 seasons. We know that in Blagoveshchensk, skiing centers contribute to winter free time, and I know that even if you came to for skiing, it doesn't mean that you don't want to do some sightseeing, for example. You may walk and look around because such tourists are the target audience for us. And the second thing that I'd like to say is the points of access. We understand that the Ministry of Economic Development imposes restrictions on us due to long distances, due to certain requirements. So that's why we would like to have the access points in Ufa, but Orenburg and Magnitogorsk also should be potential access points to the itinerary. The Ministry of Transportation considers our initiative to launch a bus. We want to have this hop-on, hop-off situation where you can join whenever you want and you can get off whenever you want. Well, that's quite costly, and it will take time, but it's very popular, and it should be potentially possible. Thank you very much. Ms. Pavlyushina, thank you very much. Before I give the floor to the next speaker, I would like to comment on the fact that Trans-Urals are developing. Can you predict how many national itineraries can be established in Bashkortostan? It's sure you cannot have too many of them, but yeah, you can have more than 2 or 3 routes. We would aim to 1 route. Yeah, step by step. Yeah, it's hard to develop a few at once. We value the story. We want to cover all significant spots. We will have a number of routes, or we can have one very rich itinerary, and the tourists won't have to go all the way down. We really like the idea of splitting one itinerary in several parts, like you can use south particularly, you can use north particularly. We will see if that will be possible, if that is possible in terms of infrastructure. This is something we find can be unique about the route, that it can be a single one. Also, you need to remember that the itinerary can be not regional but interregional, and you can join the Orenburg area and you can submit a joint application. So, answering your question, I would say that there can be several routes, but you shouldn't overkill. Mr. Avzalov, we were talking about the Trans-Urals. Can you express your opinion? Can I see the map slide again? Can you ask the technicians? Can you switch on Victoria's presentation? First of all, I would like to express my gratitude because we are working very productively together. We are preparing touristic routes, right? When we only started, we discussed what the Bashkortostan's route should look like. And we realized that it should be 8-shaped, like the sign of infinity. There are 2 accesses to the region. That first. And the crossing is Ufa Airport. And the extreme points at the bottom is Magnitogorsk. But this is where we are today. It's Trans-Urals. And I guess that we can travel along the Trans-Urals and we can move towards Ishimbai and Salavat. Why? Because Trans-Urals is something that hasn't been fully explored. Is Shurgantaush Trans-Urals. Trans-Urals. We have the highest waterfall in Trans-Urals. We have water reservoir here.
Юмагузинская, да.
Nugush water reservoir.
Мы говорим Нугуш, да. Это все это здесь. Это
It is found here. It is this bottom point in Kugarchinsky district.
по Белой, сплавляясь, туда
You can travel down Belaya and reach this area. This is a large cluster of touristic points of attraction. We have unique rivers.
Там Янтыш, я думаю, там тоже сплавляются.
You can think about Yantish, that is popular for rafting in Khabylinski district. You don't have to go too far. Last year,
Инвалидов
the Union of Disabled in Bashkortostan visited the Khabylinski district and they established conditions for the rafting.
через бесконечность, да? Потому что это должно
Well, it can look like an infinity sign because the itinerary should be endless. Yeah, it should be a single one, but it will be infinite. Yeah, so there is a point of philosophy again that I guess that we will overtake all the regions in terms of economic development. Unfortunately, we went too much into details. Let me use my opportunity. Yeah, it is something that we can use. The key challenge here that lays between us and infinity, we need to decide if we have to make the Ministry of Transportation build the road because there is no access to the cave, or an alternative is to use the road which is to the south of Muradymovskaya river, and it will stretch the period of the route. Well, please raise your hand if you are the head of the council in the Trans-Euros. These are two our old-timers. I guess, being a minister of tourism, I can join them because we have business sheriffs here. They know how to build these itineraries and they are here, so we can use their help. So this is the complex work. We need to take a collective approach. If we take any municipality, it would be a big disappointment if this itinerary passes around. And the joint work will take into consideration many interests. For example, if we're talking about different towns and villages and the districts of the Republic of Bashkortostan, you will find out that they have different ethnic population. They have different names for the same thing, for example.
But this is for tourists, and it is really essential. This is what they need. This is what we need, and I would be glad for the cooperation in exactly that sphere. This is what we do not see, but we can feel that there is a potential. Thank you very much.
Коллеги, выбиваемся очень сильно из графика. Давайте тогда к регламентным перейдем по 5 минут. Реально будем жестко отслеживать, потому что в 18:00 как раз-таки пленарка, которую Рустам Ханкарович.
So there is a plenary session at 6, so that is why we should actually shorten a little bit our session. So now it is Alexei Gavrilov, chairperson of the Committee for High Technologies, Investments and Digitalization of the Moscow branch of the Business Russia public organization. So it's really complicated. So you work a lot, especially in the cinema industry. So what about the collaboration effect of the national touristic itinerary? So thank you for your welcome visit. So we've come here with two projects. The first one is Saint Anna and Sheymuratov. And we also came here with the development of cinema cluster. And me and other top managers of the industry, we have a lot of online e-platforms, a lot of bloggers and Me and my team decided to build a really big platform, artistic platform, and we decided to start with media business, and we thought. So we understood that there aren't enough different decorations, like hospitals, prisons, stations, railway stations, etc. And we decided to, on the territory of the Republic, we decided to build special cinema decorations that will be sold to other people, and other people could use it as to film their content. And this I'm gonna introduce the head of Главкино, and Ilya Bachurin will tell us a lot about this topic. Ilya Bachurin, one of the heads of there are many opportunities of the Republic of Bashkortostan, and me and Alexei are talking about different ways of how to create centers where people can go. For example, directing films and decorations can be points of interest for different people, and in terms of so sometimes ecological problems and ecological issues. Yeah, that's how big cities develop their tourism, or some republics where there is beautiful nature. And for example, Главкино, when we did film Viking, and the decorations were beautiful, and we didn't know what to do, remove them or make some kind of a museum. And every weekend there were 500 visitors. So it was really great. They knew about that on the internet. So they used the website. We didn't use any advertisement. They just found it out by themselves on the website, and they visited. So we didn't even have a lot of money. So the cinema business is synergetic to the tourism, and it can be a driver. And we remember that, and while we are discussing different cinema clusters in Ufa, but the cinema production can be throughout the region, in different parts of the region. But we can also coordinate. Yeah, that's what we wanted to say. And I am a chairperson of the Committee for High Technologies. We should make up a mobile app with QR code and payment services, so that 2 million people could use these mobile apps. Also, the unified card. Here are the representatives of Sberbank, and this is the great opportunity to use a unified operator, maybe to use lots of points of Wi-Fi here, and users could use this mobile app to purchase things and use these QR codes. A QR code can be used for small businesses and for visitors as well. So it can be really useful for financial sphere of tourism. So it wouldn't be called SBOL. Maybe, yeah, it's a good idea. Talking about decorations, so we should think about that, because only blockbusters, people usually want to take pictures on the decorations of Star Wars. No, I'm gonna give you an example. So this director is really popular here in Russia. So for the film called Простоквашино, he will spend lots of millions of rubles to do these decorations. But if you had these decorations in the Republic of Russia, I would just film here. So we are using market. We would like to film Простоквашино here. There are lots of different points in the nature where you can film your where we can do cinema and film different scenes. And these scenes where all the films are set, they are not just popular. Those are touristic itineraries for the fans of those films. And we are business partner with Kion, Oko platforms, film platforms, so they could make their content here on this territory. And there isn't a place with natural decorations here in Russia now. It can be either for the Republic and for the non. One example. This is the best example that we had.
It's important, like Простоквашино is a very good case. Thank you very much. Yeah, I guess these points should be included in the itineraries.
We have a guest from Arkhangelsk Oblast, and Ekaterina Trofimova, director of the Center for the Development of Tourism and Culture of the Arkhangelsk region. So she works in the Arkhangelsk region. Are you here? Yes, we can hear you, Ms. Trofimova. So it's just 3-5 minutes for you. I'm sorry. This is the. So what are your plans for itineraries in Arkhangelsk Oblast? Could I open up the presentation? So I will be quite short. I'm gonna tell you a few words about our national itinerary. It was made in collaboration with business. It wasn't just state budgeted. It also a company budgeted. And the main thing is that when you're on this itinerary, you can taste Arkhangelsk Oblast and the North Pole as well. So the first thing is Arkhangelsk Oblast. You can gain a lot of knowledge about the first port and different traditions of wooden vessels. But the itinerary is not just Arkhangelsk. It is also a region of the city of Arkhangelsk. So there is also a museum, an open-air museum that is 40 hectares. You can just walk there. You can just walk through this museum. The next day, our tourists go to the White Sea, and this is the industry tourism sector. There you can visit the first submarine. You can also gain knowledge about the history of this plant. And there is also an island, some kind of an island that you can visit in winter, in summer, etc. And you can see that it is very, very diverse. I would like to highlight. So let me open up the presentation. So do you see the presentation now? Nope. No. Okay, so I'm just speaking. I'm gonna be speaking dynamically. So Arkhangelsk Oblast is quite near from St. Petersburg and Moscow. It's just 1.5 hours by train, and 1.5 hours by plane. So our tour is really good for a city break. When you can, from our two capitals, Moscow and St. Petersburg, you can go to Arctica and the Russian North. Usually it is the visitors, the tourists, are the business tourists and also families, as well as the senior citizens that are ready to gain a lot of knowledge about history. But after 2 years, so now I can open up the presentation for you. After 2 years, we understand that our so now it is. So, Ekaterina, what about the effectiveness of this itinerary? Were you thinking about that? So, did you reach any goals talking about those itineraries? Is it profitable? Yes, the itinerary is better and better every year. And also this. So the cruise liners are also used here. So on the slide you can see the price that are really popular. So what about the money? What about the investment? So we invested. It is usually 500,000 rubles every year. And also, there are lots of non-profit organizations that help us. So the unique thing of this itinerary is a business constructor. We don't have a special itinerary, and because of that, the price is really low. So the tour is called a constructor. We have so this is 50% of customers. They expand their tourism or they just come back. The percentage of those who come back to this itinerary every year is quite high. So thank you so much. And it was reached. This is a new thing for us, and we're talking about it with everyone, and talking about hotels, tour agents. We have an agreement between all of them with the prices and dates as well. So we fix our prices for a year. Even if something happens, nothing changes. Yes, thank you. This is a great experience.
It is very favorable that you have this very low price at the access point and you are able to invite and engage somebody else. We would like to give the floor to Elena Klimova, Deputy Chairperson of the Committee for Tourism of the Pskov region. Ms. Klimova, what is special about your route? There is a lot of things that are special about Pskov and Pskov region. What is your top priority for the national route? Are you here?
Ой, вернее, Елена Санна. Следующий. Все, отлично.
Okay, Ms. Klimova will be the next one. Now I'm giving the floor to Kamaleddin Karimov. I want to give the floor to Kamaleddin Karimov, Chief Specialist of the Department for Investor Relations of Tourism.rf Corporation. We talk a lot about corporation, talk a lot about investments. There is a lot of interest in the touristic industry, and I see large projects implemented in the Republic of Bashkortostan. How the corporation can be useful for national itinerary like ones in Bashkortostan. Thank you very much for having me here today. I'm glad to be a part of this great forum. I am the only doctor in our corporation, and I am actually specializing in rehabilitation. Bashkortostan is famous for its special health resorts like Yangantau or Krasnoyarsk. They were popular back then in the Soviet Union, so they are here in contemporary Russia. The main objective is to attract people into tourism, and we want them to visit health resorts and health centers. Our corporation covers 57 regions. We signed agreements with all of them. We work with a lot of them. Over 75 projects are under development right now, and even more are under consideration. Therefore, I would like to go into details about certain support measures. What do I do wrong? You probably should keep it a little bit higher. Do you have the slides? Yeah, I do. And do the technicians have the slides? Yeah, they do. Mr. Karimov's presentation. You should have one. Can we launch it? Okay, I'm guessing there isn't any. Dear colleagues, can I flip through the slides? I guess it will take a minute to sort this out, so let's continue. I would like to say that the classic procedure for investors to enter our project is 30% is distributed between the investor and tourism.rf. The classical procedure implies us to be the manatories. Over 51% is held by the investor. This can be rearranged. For example, we can play the function of the majority. What is the access threshold? The access threshold is starting off 20% or even 10% paid by the investor. So, Tourism RF's contribution is under 10%. According to the order of the government, our contribution should be between 3 and 5%, and certain banks also can take part in the project. We use authorities and bodies. We rely on orders of the and over 90% of federal funds are allocated to the projects based on the idea of the region.
Okay, talking about, so there is a master planning. So we have 6 master plans, 2 in Irkutsk region, and in series of different regions here. So there is one project that is called Big Anapa, which is. So this is the scheme that I was talking about. So it is for 25-30 numbers for. Okay, so I'm having some problems. Colleagues, can you help us? Can you help us with the slides? So this is master planning. Alkonia, Laganaki, Kanduki. So the geography is quite wide, almost, and some separate projects. For example, Big Anapa for 300. So it's 2,200 invest projects till 2030, and lots of different master plans. Talking about working mechanisms and talking about health resorts. If we're talking about state forms, it can be a constitutional agreement or by privatization of different health centers. So different health resorts. People are aware of different health resorts. So we are ready to just have it, to just buy it, and the owner of it, or we will reconstruct it, and we will fully put it into the market. So today we discussed about Gitao and different salt facilities. And those few projects can be a part of tourism of the Russian Federation.
We've been speaking about the most priority projects for tourism, Raf, and have you prioritized anything for yourself that yes, we are going to exercise specific control over some projects, monitor them, finance them? Do you set something aside as not something of your priority? No, if we are interested in a project and if it takes off financially, we take any project independent of the region, independent of their location. And when we discuss some core under the Soviet time and then in the newly independent Russia, there used to be decrees which established 18 unique territories, and Bashkortostan, Krasnoussolsky and Gitao is one of the unique spas where they have mineral waters, where they have healing muds, where they have climatic conditions very conducive to health improvement, and you can have tourism over there. So when formulating our model, we clarified that there are 120 suites. So you have a recreation park, recreation area over there, and it is within the framework of your concept and can get financing. Yes, if there is hotel business, it should be present over there, and if they have at least 120 rooms available, whether with one legal entity or maybe two different hotels with 60 rooms in each, we can consider different options. And I also would like to draw your attention to the development of small cities, small towns of Russia, and this unique resort in Novgorod Oblast, the city of Staraya Russa. We signed an agreement with Novgorod Oblast, and this is a very famous place where Dostoevsky used to live, and it is known as a spa resort from 1944. And Dostoevsky also got treated at that resort. We've got this greenfield area, 31 hectares of land, and we are establishing a project over there, inviting investors. It's going to be a unique resort with restaurants, with suites, with thermal spas, with medical and recreational facilities. So we have representatives of Rustam Vas here, and of course I invite you to get more involved into our project, and you can be among the leaders of our project. So I came here with the idea to come back with projects. So we are very interested, as any region, Bashkortostan is very interested in inviting large projects with, like, as I've said, 5,000 square meters, 3 stars, 120 rooms. I understand it's quite a contribution. It's about 600 million rubles of investments. So it's very difficult to organize that without partners, and you need a tandem with an investor to be able to pull it off. And there is a demand on that. And smaller projects are also on high demand. And when we discussed it with the Ministry of Social and Economic Development, the Deputy Minister Chernyshenko said that we should decrease, that we should make this threshold lower. Maybe for Moscow it is a very low threshold, but for Bashkortostan, for Chelyabinsk Oblast, this is quite a high threshold because you have to take a lot of investments. And yes, there are different mechanisms of attracting foreign investments, and there is no limitation on the time over there, so it can take, for example, a decade, and we give you time, we give the business time to reach the break-even point and get to profit. And you've mentioned the pool of invest projects. What was that pool? We have established project teams, about 75 of them, and we've been working from June 2022, so it's less than a year, and you have the interest rate 3-5%, and you've got like 125 vacancies, and you have to be very quick to be able to join this project. Maybe it will be multiplied, it will be disseminated, but at the moment there are 125 vacancies, so you should join in. We discussed larger projects right now, and right now we can also go over to Sberbank. We have the head of the Bashkortostan branch of Sberbank. When we speak about smaller projects, how does Sberbank cooperate with the tourist industry? We understand that there are different directions of your work, but how do you treat tourism in Sberbank, where you consider them as a good investment or not? Very recently, we've acquired this notion of a complex product when we consider not only the financial part of the agreement where we understand everything, but where we consider also the preparatory part. And it was very interesting to hear today the preparation of these tourist routes. We heard about this figure of 8, which stands for eternity, and we should understand this part of work. When we think about tourist projects, it involves some technological things we can offer. We had a very successful cooperation with monitoring of tourism, where banking services allowed us to follow the transactions made by our clients within our system, and we gathered some statistical data, which was very useful and which can be useful for your tourist routes as well. And I've got a question to you, Victoria. In terms of preparing all these things about the national routes, we would like to receive some feedback from you about the economic side of things. When we think about giving loans to some events, sometimes people lack competencies, sometimes they lack decisiveness to make a step, to make some decision, and we could take your analytical data and implement it as a complex credit product. We've discussed it about spa resorts, and we thought about different directions of work, and we worked with Krasnousольский resort, and we can organize investment and financing, and it was very successful with them, but it was not successful with other enterprises. For example, they lacked decisiveness or they lacked incentives to do that. So if you can cooperate with us, that would be great. When we worked out our routes, we are going to make forecasts about the traffic of tourists, and if we use this venue for cooperation, of course, if you have some analytical data, that would be of huge importance for us, because we do have different sorts of data to assess and forecast the tourist traffic. And of course, we will share these data, and we will share our assessment how it is necessary to develop infrastructure, including tourist infrastructure. And yes, we would appreciate your input very much. We would like our assessments not to remain pieces of paper. We would like them to be implemented in reality. So thank you very much. Okay, this is the venue where we can share our expertise and share our knowledge. And answering your question, Ravil, one of the schemes we've been implementing, it's a classical banking business. Well, yes, we can do that, and yes, we can mention the figure of 8 again, thinking of the scale of Sberbank, because it can basically guarantee endless financing of any projects. And that was Azamat Salihov, representing the local branch of Sberbank. And we have 2 speakers left. It is very important over here to develop tourist destinations over here, and people who visited us should remember something, should take something with them back home. And we have a doctor from the National Research Institute of the Higher School of Economics, Kirill Rashkov. We would like to hear about branding. What should an entrepreneur do to catch the attention of their possible client? Good afternoon. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. I work with branding of territories, and I've got 200 students who enrolled on my courses: Introduction to Branding, Rebranding of Territories, Brand Management of a City. We have publications abroad, and we also teach the practical side of things. Rustem spoke about national tourist destination, which is a very interesting threshold or benchmark on the route which creators of such things undergo. And I can tell you about the start of such a story. A friend of mine, Yuri Shigalkov, came to me, and he is from the Foundation of Development of Small Cities, and he said tourist traffic grows inside Russia, and only 80% need they're lazy ones, and they need some spas, resorts, and seaside, but 20% are curious, and they would like to learn something new. And we have small historical cities, and some of them are not very widely known. For example, the city of Bezhetsk, where Gumilev, Akhmatova visited, and there is the city of Totma, where they have Totma Baroque, the architectural style, which is named after the name of the city. And yes, it is a brand. We should create a tourist route through those destinations. So he persuaded me, and he persuaded the investors who gave money for the so-called flax or linen route, and we started promoting cities which are connected historically with the linen textile industry. So we called it Linen Road, and we worked as parasites. We decided that students will do everything, and students will be the first tourists. They are highly mobile, they are enthusiastic and they do not require as much comfort as is envisaged by the major routes, and they see it, the lack of comfort, as an adventure. For example, we didn't have hot water, and the students found out that the dishes would be washed separately by some separate kitchen, and it was an adventure for them, and it revived interest in them for that city. We worked out methodology. The students went online to see what happens in those cities. Then they created the route. Then they went on an expedition through those cities and looked at what happened over there. And they worked out a brand on the basis of all that information. And we know that students are not experts, and 70 or 80% of what they did was dropped off. We grilled the students' work together with the representatives of tourist industry, and eventually only 2 projects survived, and 2 projects were accepted, and the rest of the projects we did not dismiss entirely. And you can use this QR code and look at the tours we worked out, the routes we prepared to such cities as Торжок, Ржев, Тутаев, Переславль-Залевский, Великая village, Бежецкая, Рамешки, Вязьма, Гагарин. We started working out a leaflet, a manual, how you have to work out a brand. And my colleagues asked me how to translate the word brand into Russian. Is it a stigma? Well, you cannot actually translate it into Russian. And a completely precise translation into Russian would be a Russian idiomatic expression, which cannot be properly translated back into English. So I worked out this expression depicting the wonderful company which is very well known for its quality of work. So we decided to work out a manual how to prepare a branding for a route, and we discussed the ways of describing the situation. We described the risks, so basically it is SWOT analysis. We created 8 techniques of selling the brand, and the audience likes it simple. We would not appreciate very complicated scientific academic information. Young people will stop listening to academic information within 1 minute, so we'll have to think of simple formulas, simple slogans, simple logos. And here you have the 7 rules we worked out. We used the clever word identifier, but that's the major characteristics which represent the route. There are also 4 risks of losing to our competitors, and there is a stereotype that if we have this unique city of ours, that's enough. No, it's not enough for branding, for marketing, because there are similar cities with similar characteristics. So you have to find something unique for yourself, something your competitors cannot repeat. Or you can invent something. There was a tour which was prepared in Casa Tutaev, and the slogan was, "Let's go for the weekend to Tutaev and buy some linen textile." So if you don't have a peculiarity, you have to invent it, you have to think about it, and you have to understand what the public will accept. There are also 8 tricks of creating the so-called selling name. quotes, metaphors, call for actions. We describe different methods of creating such things, and it is also images we receive from the route itself, not only from mass media. The route itself should be very interesting, especially for the young audience, which is very fast in switching their attention from one thing to another. They need impressions at every single point of the route, and 9 rules of making impressions. The most important thing is to exclude everything negative. We exclude everything which is not related to our concept. We increase the time spent on the sites they find interesting. For example, during the route they find something more interesting. We should promote such things, and we should find additional time for such places on our route. And we should follow up the positive impressions, and everything should be interactive, especially for the younger people. Not only master classes or performances. That should be inclusion of, for example, fashion bloggers and healthy lifestyle, and linen is a part of a healthy lifestyle. So you have an overlap of ethnic things, of fashion, and of healthy lifestyle. You've got like a minute or two. That seems to be about it. We decided to keep it, to preserve it, and make an analytical report in the Higher School of Economics. And the title will be just like this: Branding of Cultural and Educational Tourist Routes. If you are interested in that, you have all the contacts over here. Use this QR code, use my WhatsApp, Telegram, and if you would like to study this or to research this, we are open for cooperation. Yes, I think your presentation is very useful, and we can distribute this presentation among the participants. You've got everything, what is to be done and what should not be done. That is very interesting. And now we have Elena Klimova online from Committee on Tourism of Pskov Oblast. Are you with us? Can you hear me? Could you be very brief? We are behind our schedule. What did you do about your tourist routes? Good afternoon, dear colleagues, and I'm happy to be here again for the people of Bashkortostan, and I hope we will be able to establish our bilateral tourist routes. Here on the territory of Pskov Oblast we have 2 tourist routes, federal routes. The first one is to commemorate Alexander Nevsky. It was created in 2018, but it was modernized to receive this new status and to celebrate the 800th anniversary of his birthday, of Alexander Nevsky. And the next tour is about local farms. It was created for the international or national competition Discover Your Own Russia, and it received the status of a national tourist route. I will give you brief details about both so that you will see how different they are. This farm tour is the only tour of the sort, agricultural tourism in Russia. That is a tour around farms, and it includes visiting interactive farms and ranches. There are lots of tastings, master classes, and it is very impressive. You've got huge berry plantations, and you can make selfies with different birds and animals. You can sit on different chairs made of wood. So everybody is very creative over there, and everybody is hospitable, and all our guests are happy. Our target audience are city dwellers. They go from their huge cities, they get distracted from their gadgets, and all of them are happy. And the price of this route is about 17,000. The next route, Alexander Nevsky, the name of Russia. The gist of this route is history. It's historically important, and Pskov is directly connected with the name of Alexander Nevsky because he won the victory on the shore of the Chudskoye Lake. He won this victory about the over the Teutonic Order, and this route includes a lot of sites, the major sites of Pskov Oblast, and of course lots of places are connected with the name of Alexander Nevsky. Not only near Chud ozera, we have the city of Izborsk, and we also have this monument about the so-called battle on ice. And the target audience, we envisage it as school students, because they can learn about our history exactly on the locations where it happened. There are also families with children, and there are lots of souvenirs, there are quests, board games, sweets. And next slide. This route costs about 12,000, but it will depend on the number of people enrolled for the route, and it's from April to October, and individuals and separate groups can travel separately. Do you show the battle on the ice of the Chud ozera for them? Yes, we organize some interactive games on the territory of the Pskov Kremlin or Pskov fortress, and of course we need information support. The government of Pskov Oblast, the regional government, supports this project, and you can find information on the main website of our tourist agencies, and they're always presented at different venues, and you can find printed information. We've got calendars we sell everywhere, and these routes are promoted on the federal level as well. Rostourism, Russia Travel promotes these routes. How do you promote them? I understand that there are not enough people living in Pskov area to visit, but how do you make it popular? Where and how do you promote it? Recently we published articles in different magazines which are sold on boards of planes and distributed on boards of planes, and we made presentations in Moscow at different exhibitions for travel agents in Moscow. So, judging from your experience, where do your tourists come from? From regions close to Pskov? Yes, so far from regions which are very close to Pskov, but we would like, for example, guests from Bashkortostan to come to our area. I think it will be of interest for you. And we had travel agents from Ufa and said that's very interesting. And we hope to organize this traffic of tourists. But our major target audience is people traveling from St. Petersburg and Moscow, but we enlarge our target audience and we go to the Urals, for example. And the next thing I wanted to point out, the financial support. When we have two national routes, it allowed us to receive federal subsidies, federal support, and within the framework of that grant, our travel agents and our travel operators can receive grants for modernization of different tourist resources. They can create different resource centers. And how much can they get? 7.6 million. One grant can receive up to 7.6 million. And that involves 30% of co-financing. And how much of federal money was involved? Or did you do it by yourselves? We received 106 million, but right now we've got applications for both directions. 106 million. How much had you required? So, for example, you had asked for 1 billion and received 100 million. No, we had specific limitations for every region, and we received basically what we asked for. You are lucky. Yes, it's great, and I would like to express my gratitude to the government of the Russian Federation and to the Ministry of Social and Economic Development of the Russian Federation for this financial support, because without this financial support on our regional level, it would have been very difficult to modernize all these resources, and we have received enough finances to do that. Thank you so much for joining us. Your experience is very useful, and I hope all these routes will be united for all of us, and we will travel through all of them. Thank you very much. And just for a second, I will give floor to Anna Andreevna. I am not going to ask you about the pesticides and anticides used to clear up all those routes, but how useful those routes are and how safe they are in terms of ticks, in terms of, well, we are working not only with the pandemics, and I think we have to discuss such things in the future. We have to talk about prevention of diseases. We have to talk about health issues. Whatever we do to develop business, to develop tourism, for us, the most important thing is recreation. And when I tell them that 10 days is not enough on the seaside to have recreation, you have to stay there for 21 days. People are very surprised, and we have to inform our people. We have to raise their awareness how to have your recreation properly, and we should teach the bosses how to keep their employees healthy, and that's what we should do about recreational activities. Okay, the Ministry of Health and you work together in tourism. We are going to discuss that in medical tourism when we are going to discuss it in detail. It's not only about medicine. We should teach people how to get healthy. We should explain it to them that these kind of people need go into the mountains, others should go to the seas, and the period of rest from work should be at least 21 days. Yes, we should work with the Ministry of Labor as well. Thank you all. Thanks to everyone. And The national routes are the priorities, and Ministry of Tourism has some money for that. Banks are ready to invest. There are lots of institutions ready to invest, and you should be using that, and it is very promising. Within the last couple of years, we've witnessed that. We opened our eyes to that, and we understood that it is a very promising direction of work where you can also earn money, as many countries do. So thank you for your work and good luck. We have plenary session at 6.
Так точно, филармония. Трансфер обеспечен.
Transfer is ready, and it's going to be in the Philharmonic Society.